Good evening. It is the 8th of January, 2026. We are doing our first journal club of 2026. And continuing on, Iris and Dylan are going to be presenting the impact of the gut microbiome composition on social decision making. This is Falkenstein et al., and they are from Bonn, Germany. Let's see. And this was published in PNAS Nexus.
Okay, hello everybody. Me and Iris
Hey
are
guys.
presenting impact of gut microbiome composition on social decision making. So, we're gonna go over like a little introduction to um like everything this paper is about. We're gonna start with what the gut microbiome actually is. It's an array of microorganisms in your body. They aid in digestion, in the immune system, and this study goes over its effect on the brain function. It's composed of over 1,000 species of bacteria, and it's altered through diet and your environment. So the gut microbiome, as this paper goes over a lot, communicates with the brain through the gut-brain axis. So it's just a communication between the digestive system and the brain, using something called the enteric nervous system. It's also called the gut's second brain, and that's goes through the vagus nerve, which you can see at the top picture there. It's kind of like it's just a nerve that sends information from the brain to like the digestive system and all the parts around there. So past research before this have shown that the gut microbiome can influence behavior and health, but not social decision making, and that's what this paper is covering. Okay. Um, Go
I'm gonna
ahead.
go over some like what prebiotics and probiotics and symbiotics are. So probiotics basically just add helpful bacteria. An example of this would just be like yogurt. And prebiotics, they feed and help those good bacteria to like help them grow. And the image that you see right here, you can see that if you combine probiotics and prebiotics, then you get a symbiotic, which is the main thing that's kind of used in the study. And in the study, we use the symbiotic, which is the biotic junior, and they did so the researchers like changed the microbiome on purpose so that it would be like a controlled and realistic way so they could like test whether the changes would like affect like actually affect social decision making. And another purpose that the symbiotic was also used for was to test crucial effects on social behavior. So like this paper was basically all about explaining how the like Dylan said like how the microbiome like helps on like social behavior and changes it. And the symbiotic like changes the gut bacteria, and researchers like because of using the symbiotic they could like test how um it like changes the microbiome in a way, and it which then causes like the social decision making to happen. And this like a specific thing that this was mainly used for was on the effects on like altruistic punishment, which is basically like when you reject like unfair offers from others.
Hmm.
And yeah.
And I think we're gonna go over that in the next slide. So the way that they tested a change in social decision making, well, actually, what social decision making is, it's just a process of making choices, and it requires people to balance their goals they want to achieve and like needs and wants of other people. So the way they tested this was through an experiment called the ultimatum game. Like a brief summary of it, there's player one gets a sum of money, like $10, I think they did in this. And they can decide like amount to split it with player two. Um, it could be an even split, uneven split. That's mostly what they were testing, the uneven split in this um paper. But the player two can either accept the amount of money they're given and take it, or reject it and get nothing. So you would probably think that player two would just always accept it because that's just why wouldn't you take the money? But sometimes people would reject it just kind of to like in a way punish player one for giving like a unfair split of the money. Yeah, right. I'll take this. Too. So something else that they tested in this study was tyrosine. It's an amino acid that is the precursor to dopamine, which means that the so tyrosine ends up becoming dopamine in your brain. And dopamine is just um a neurotransmitter that is involved with reward and what they were studying in this processing fairness. So this study suggests that taking the symbiotic can alter individuals' decision making by altering their levels of tyrosine and then ultimately their levels of dopamine. Or not levels, like amount of dopamine. Okay.
We have like a brief summary on the paper. So, like we went over right now, they basically just like tested the effects on the gut microbiome, like how the effects that it has on social decision making. Then they split the participants into two groups, like Dylan went over, and one was with a symbiotic and the other one was a placebo. And they used this like game that Dylan also talked about to test how the participants reacted to unfairness before and after taking the symbiotics for 7 weeks. And lastly, they tested stool and blood samples to measure the FB ratio and tyrosine levels of the participants.
Yeah. In the FB ratio is it's the ratio of the two most common types of bacteria in your gut. Okay, so I think we're gonna go to all right, figure one. Who would like to take figure one? Do we have any hands?
I can do C and D.
I'll
Okay.
do A and B.
All right, go ahead, Michael.
So I think A and B just is kind of going over and showing a visual of what the experiment is. Like it starts off with the information and consent. Then it shows how they started it, like before they like did the experiment, like the pre. Then they put, when it says N51, I think that's the amount of people that they put with the symbiotic. So it was 51 to 50. And then after 7 weeks, they tested them again. And then B is the one where like they tested their social decision making by like unfair and fair.
Can we take a second just to make sure everybody understands what's going on in figure A? You guys know what stool and blood samples are? So stool samples, why would they take a stool sample?
I can answer that. They wanted to test the um bacteria or like microorganisms that were in their
Yeah.
gut. Yeah.
Yeah, so stool sample is your poo, right? So that's how, can give you an idea of the gut microbiome. And then blood, why would they take a blood sample?
They were testing for tyrosine, and they're also
Yeah,
testing for tryptophan, but they
yeah,
found
so
that
these
was
amino acid precursors to neurotransmitters. So tyrosine, which becomes dopamine, and tryptophan, which becomes serotonin, right? So those become neurotransmitters in your body. And then, do you guys know what random assignment means? Can somebody else, maybe besides Dylan, explain what do you think random assignment means?
Could it
Chipsh.
mean that like they weren't split up for like any specific reason? Like they were just randomly put in a group?
Yeah, and that's really important in psychology research is that your groups are randomly assigned so that in theory, shut up. In theory, there's no difference between your experimental group and your control group, right? And then lastly, what is the placebo? Can somebody explain what the placebo means? Go ahead,
go ahead,
Mila.
Mila.
Take it, Mila.
Placebo is when you tell someone that this thing is going to do something and they take it and they believe that it's going to do something when in reality doesn't, just a fake.
Yeah, basically. So the placebo it is not supposed to do anything, right? But because of the way the human brain works, placebos actually do something. Like if you think something is going to work, it actually kind of does work. So Dylan or Iris, do you know what the placebo was in this study? Did they say?
Oh, they did say. I'm not sure though. I can check.
So it's fine. It's most likely just a pill that
I,
they say it was a probiotic. So it probably looks exactly the same as a probiotic pill, but does not contain probiotics.
so I've got it here because I had this concern. Um, in the competing interest statement at the bottom of the first page, it says that the manufacturer Mensana provided us with the supplement, which was that
Oh,
Mensana Junior,
yeah.
and an identical looking placebo that consisting of microcrystalline cellulose.
Oh, same way. I can see why that's a problem.
Yeah.
So should we talk about that now or later, Dr. Char?
So I was hoping you were coming into this like really positive about it because after I read it, I just wanted to like my head wanted to explode. But
Well, I already told you what my concern was
yeah,
earlier
yes, and I
today.
think I think you're right. Yeah. Um, but I want them I'd like them to try to figure it out first, like what the issue might be. Um, but
Yeah.
let's give them a hint first. Can Dylan, are you in charge of those slides? Can you go back one? One more.
Is it
Oh,
the
sorry.
probiotic and
Yeah, the probiotic and
yep.
prebiotic. Here's a hint. This slide's the hint. Okay.
Is cellulose a prebiotic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Well, so that's I'm actually on their website right now looking to see if the formulation they used also had it in there. So
Probably it probably does.
it
Cellulose is a
probably does,
common it's
yeah.
a common filler. They actually use cellulose as a filler in cheap Parmesan cheese. So if you buy like a cheap store brand Parmesan cheese, it most likely has cellulose as a filler. It's
So
not like honestly the amount that they were taking of cellulose is probably not a huge amount of prebiotic. It's equivalent to probably chewing like a stalk of celery or something like celery is really high in cellulose.
yeah.
So that's
And
probably
it's
the equivalent.
this biotic junior thing is actually for children, which I thought that was interesting too, since the average age of these people was 32, and they gave them
Hmm.
children's. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking because I want them to, see if they can analyze it.
Yeah, I
All
just
right.
want to make sure we all understood the procedure. Any questions before we move on?
Okay, Maddie, do you want to start C and D?
Sure. Um, in figure three, what I thought was like happening here is the distribution of rejection rates. Um, we can see like the two groups, the symbiotic and the placebo, and the two time points, the pre and the post, and that's the rejection rate on the side. So in total, we see four distributions: the placebo pre, the placebo post, the symbiotic pre, and the symbiotic post. And each distribution represents how participants differed from each other in how often they rejected the offers. Because you see the line decreasing, we can see that the rejection kind of like it was slowly going down after the distribution. Um,
And Dylan, do you want to draw? I don't know if I could do it, but do you want to draw on the slide? There's a way to do that through Zoom. Actually, I might be able to do it. Hold on.
Oh,
There we
yeah, I
go.
see it.
So, can you guys see what I'm circling?
I can see it.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about, right, Maddie?
yeah.
That's the decrease. So it's the difference between, it's essentially the area under the curve
Hmm.
here and between these two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I also point out something that I thought was interesting that in the placebo group, right? So notice where it starts. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
So this is saying that when the person offers you $0, it was rejected 100% of the time, which makes sense, right? If somebody offers you, hey, I'll give you $0 and I'll keep 10, you're going to reject that offer 100% of the time because then they get nothing, right? Look at the treatment group. Look at where it starts. When in the treatment group, when they offered them $0, the person only rejected it like, what is that, 85% of the time? So that means like 15% of the time, the person receiving the offer said, "Oh yeah, I'll take $0 and you can have the other 10." And this happened in both the pre and post testing. I don't know why, but that's just kind of weird to me. Like, why do we see that difference between the placebo and the control group? And this is right, both pre and post treatment. Kind of weird.
I was thinking, so that bothered me too. I was thinking, and well, does anybody else have a theory? Anybody have an idea? Like, take a wild guess why they? Because we don't have an answer. This is just like speculation. Why would that happen? That's weird. Mila?
Out of the goodness of their heart. I don't know.
I actually don't think that is that far off. I think that they might have. They're coming back from 7 weeks, right? They come back 7 weeks after they initially learned and did this game. Maybe they're like, we just want to see what happens because we're bored, or we want to see what
Except
happens and start the.
except it's not just in the post, right? So post is after the 7 week treatment. It also happened in the pre, right? So the session one is the pre, that's the dashed line. And in the treatment group, that is also like about 85%
Oh,
rejection.
what? You're right. I'm
So
misreading.
even before they started the treatment, they were less likely to reject that terrible offer. I have no explanation of why that's the case. It's weird.
I was misreading the graph actually. And yeah, now that's even stranger. That's
The
like
graph is kind of
predictive.
confusing, right? So the
Oh, it's a
left
horrible
side
graph.
is placebo and the right side is treatment. Like
It's a horrible graph.
yeah, it's not really doesn't really make sense.
What is the red box?
That's like I think the time period that they want you to focus on where you start to actually see a significant difference. Not the time period, but rather like the ratios that you like. So the 3 to 7 and 4 to 6 ratios, you see a significant difference.
But why do they say that? That's not true. Like even visually, it's not true. You could see at the bottom, kind of in the no, because it's integers. It's integers. It's not. Okay. All right. Fine. That's such a bad graph. God. Okay.
Well, Cadence has a thought. Go ahead, Cadence.
I know that like the assignments were random, but like could it have just happened that all of the people that wanted to see what happened somehow ended up in the same group? And that's why it started lower on the graph.
That's a great thought. They actually do address that in the paper, as we'll see in a little while.
Yeah. I mean, who signed up for the? This is a major problem. Did you read the book, Mr. Cream, the book I gave you, The Righteous Mind? Because he talks about weird.
I'm in the process.
He talks about weird people, right? What is that? Western, industrialized, educated. What's R stand for? I can't remember.
I can think of
But it's an acronym for all of our psychological data. Essentially comes from like undergraduates at rich schools.
Yeah. College
and they are
college
not.
students,
Yeah, they're not representative of the rest of the world and how the
No.
rest of people think. And this study, if you look to see who was in the study, it was the average age was 32 years old. It was 117 people.
Yep. That's
Anyway.
actually pretty good for most psych studies.
Yeah.
A lot of psych studies, like for example, the study that I ran in college, we had only like 60 people and they were mostly in their early 20s. So this is like a little more representative. But in response to Cadence's point, it does sometimes happen that even when you do random assignment, there's a difference between the two groups just by random chance. And the authors actually admit that this is the case. It's actually normal in a psychology study that when you do random assignment, you have to report what the groups were like in order to show that there was actually no difference between them before the experiment. So, for example, we have 100 people approximately. We assign them to two groups. We're supposed to show that these groups were essentially the same before the experiment. That's like the standard practice because we want to show that the experiment, the treatment, is what produced the difference in the post test, right?
Mm-hmm.
They actually do not really do that. So they admit that there was a difference in pre testing between the two groups, but they purposely leave out what that difference was. They don't actually say.
I
Anyway, I'm
think
going to shut up about it now.
I think there's a further wrinkle in the statistics, and that might explain a little bit of it. But all right, go ahead, Maddie. You doing D?
Okay, you want to do D. Okay. So D was like a little easier. It shows the panel plots show individual level changes in rejection behavior, and for each participant, its change equals post minus pre-rejection rate, and each dot on the graph is one participant, and they're horizontal, so if they went vertically, they would overlap and we couldn't read it. The x-axis is the change in rejection rate, while the y-axis is the change in rejection rate, while the x-axis is the treatment group, and the asterisk is less than 0.05, which we learned about last year, which means a difference between groups. But the graph shows that the placebo group did not have a change, but there was no like significant change, but the symbiotic group was positive because we can see that the error bar was above the 0. And that means, yeah.
I stared at that graph for like 10 minutes. I could not make heads or tails of this graph. Look where the error bar is.
Yeah, it took me a while.
Oh, what I think this graph is saying is that people in the treatment group became more likely to reject unfair offers after taking the probiotics, right? So after the 7 weeks
I
of
thought it was no, I think
the
it's the opposite.
percent,
Well, I thought it
the
was
change is positive. So the percent of offers that they rejected went up, went from about 0, right, to like 15%, right?
yeah.
Something like that.
No, but I think in a positive way where they were accepting the offers, not rejecting them.
It
No,
says change in rejection rates,
I
though.
think
You
Yeah.
look at the y-axis.
That's why I was so confused because their
Oh,
conclusion is
you know what I think confuse you because they're talking about altruistic punishment because they think that rejecting the offer is actually altruism because you're punishing somebody for being unfair. So when you reject, if somebody offers you $0 and you say no, and then they get nothing, you're punishing them. But they say that that's altruistic because you're teaching them a lesson at your
right.
own
And
expense.
okay, so this is not really that's not my area of expertise. That's why I was glad you were gonna. Have you ever heard of that before? Is that actually a thing?
So in social psychology, altruism is defined as helping somebody else at your own expense. But this term of like altruistic punishment, I think is a relatively new term I have not heard.
Okay.
But I think altruistic punishment, if you think about it, you're punishing somebody else at your own expense. So like say I pay $5 to punish this person, but it's
So that they
altruistic
would.
because I'm helping society by teaching
God.
this person a lesson. That's I think what they mean. So
Okay.
in any case, the people in the treatment group become more likely to reject unfair offers after taking the probiotic. That's the take-home message here. Okay, I'm gonna shut up.
Okay, should I go to figure 2? Wait,
Sure.
okay. Do we have any takers?
I do have to admit, I actually thought that the result was opposite. I think Maddie, you said the same thing. I was under the impression that their interpretation go back again, sorry. That their interpretation was no, no, Mr. Cream's right, but didn't they say that they got kinder, like they accepted more offers, not rejected them.
I was
God,
I was confused too because I thought that the effect was positive, but then like reading it again, I saw that the graph was like the change in rejection rates, but then why would it be positive if they're rejecting it?
So, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
In the first paragraph of the results section, it says participants in the treatment group rejected a higher proportion of offers after the intake of the symbiotic treatment. So they rejected more offers. And then it says, thus showing an increased tendency for altruistic punishments.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Andrew, I saw your hand was up.
All right, so starting with 2A, all these in here are a graph, but A is showing the changes in the gut microbiome after 7 weeks. So you have again you have the low FB ratio, which is represented by like the white bars, the very light gray bars, and the participants who started with the higher FB ratio is represented by the dark gray bars, which gives you a group of more balanced and healthier gut starting off, and then a less, like less healthier and then an unbalanced gut. So, you have the people who took the supplement and then placebo, and the final result showed on the graph is that the supplement positively impacted those who took the actual pill itself more. Because again, the positive values, obviously, they're going to show that you have a much more an increase than the people who took the placebo and started off with a healthier gut. Now, on B, it's showing the mean rejection in the unfair offer experiment. And the results were that those who took the pill and started off with a higher ratio were more likely to reject these offers. So it is proving that the pill is greater than the placebo in terms of giving you a healthier gut, and that the pill has a much has a much bigger impact on your gut microbiome than the placebo does, obviously. And then those two asterisks right there, they were in I think Maddie's figure of D. Again, they just mean that the average of this, it's saying that the error of these bars or the something could have thrown off these values is below 5%, very, very small. And then when we go to graph C, it's showing the tyrosine levels, which is basically an amino acid used in dopamine, and it's made by your brain. It shows that the results of the pill group who had a higher ratio and an unhealthy gut had a drop in tyrosine, which then gave them better decision making. So this shows, like Dylan was saying before in the beginning, proof of the gut-brain axis. Your gut obviously has an impact on your dopamine, tyrosine, and then impacts your social decision making, and that's the whole entire process. So yeah, these graphs are just showing the relationship and um how the pill affected those with an unhealthier gut microbiome, better. It shows that your actual gut can be changed and is a lot more flexible.
Thank you, Andrew.
To be honest, this is the most confusing page so far for me.
Did you guys know that as the number of ice creams consumed during the summer increases, the number of shark attacks increase? Did you guys know that? We should probably ban ice cream, and then there won't be shark attacks
Then
anymore.
what are you gonna eat all day?
Well, I mean,
Oh, that's a good point.
correlation,
Did,
causation kind of thing.
did you know that sleeping with your shoes on causes headaches?
Who sleeps with their shoes on?
Oh,
Yeah.
I get that one. That's a little
Who
above their
sleeps
head,
with the
probably.
Yeah.
Such a non-issue. Like who sleeps with their
No,
shoes
you guys are too young to get that one.
Dylan, you need a re-explanation of C for two.
No.
I need I need a re-explanation of the
Go
entire
ahead,
thing.
Anne.
I need the whole paper reanalyzed.
So, can we
Hashtag
break it down here? What is the beta divert? You guys see that on the y-axis of figure A, mean beta diversity scale. Does anybody know what that means? Because I don't.
I do, but it's almost like they invent. Well, let me give the kids a chance. Kids,
I read that as like a change in like the diversity of their gut microbiome.
Very good. Well, not really a change. It's not showing a change. It's showing the mean, the average diversity of the gut microbiome, right?
between treatment groups.
Well, yeah, but I'm just talking
Well,
about the y-axis.
whereas alpha. Oh, I thought you were asking beta versus alpha because I think this
Oh,
is
they do
important
talk
too.
about that too. They talk about
Because
alpha and beta.
alpha
Yeah.
is within. So if I take a sample from me and then I go on, I'm either on the placebo or I'm on the prebiotic for 7 weeks, and then I take another sample from me and I compare those two samples, that's alpha diversity. If I then compare me versus you, that's the beta.
Oh,
Now,
that's news to me.
now my sophomores. Are there any juniors here? I don't know if there's juniors. Lila would see the problem with this if she was here. I didn't invite her though. Um, Sophomores, do you see the problem with that?
It's
Is
negative.
is it
Sorry.
is it because everybody started with a different amount, like a different like composition of their gut microbiome? So if you compare them,
So
each other's.
yeah, that was actually also Iris was saying something earlier right before we started. The slight differences like that's obviously going to be a limitation. That's why you do scientific studies. That's not quite the problem, but it is close to what I think Mr. Cream was picking out also, or was going to pick out, right, Mr. Cream? Because there's we start with a difference. My problem is actually that they're running too many comparisons on the same data
Yeah.
set.
They're running way too many comparisons.
Way too many.
They're p hacking essentially.
Yes. And it's like, and they're using, well, go ahead. I get
I
it's
just think
almost
there's a ton going on here, right? So figure A is looking at changes in beta diversity with two different groups and two different treatments. No, two different groups, and then they break it down into the low FB ratio and the high FB ratio. And
almost
then the same,
arbitrarily.
yeah, and the same
Yeah.
thing in the graph B, the mean change in unfair offers. So they're trying to make the claim ultimately that the change in the gut microbiome causes the change in dopamine and serotonin, which then causes the change of behavior, right?
Do you guys
That's
know
a
that ever
very big
since,
claim to try to make.
right, you guys know that ever since the 1800s, the number of pirates in the world has been decreasing. And at the same time, the temperature of the planet's been increasing. Therefore, ergo, lack of pirates are causing the planet to warm. Like we're making we are making connections, and actually, Andrew, you were saying it, you were selling it the way they want the reader to be sold, which is that you're this shows this thing, and I would I would argue almost every single claim they make is an overreach of immense proportion. Like it has the things they're claiming aren't even close to I don't want to say provable, but even supportable by their evidence. They don't it the presence of a thing does not mean it then causes something else. That's not how that works. You would have to do a ton of other work to make sure, especially, and then Mr. Cream, your point too, that when you start out with a difference, like that's
Yeah.
it's
But to be fair, there is a difference in all these charts between the placebo group, which is in gray, and the control group, which is in dark gray, right? But it's only in the high FB ratio group, which I have to say, this is actually kind of similar to an analysis that we did in my study that we presented a few months ago. But we had a reason for looking at like low neuroticism versus high neuroticism. So there are times when doing this sort of analysis is justified, but it ends up being so complicated that like very few people can understand what's actually going on. And when you say that p is less than 0.05, that just means that there's less than a 5% chance that this difference is due to statistical randomness. A lot of time people run statistics and they're like, look, we found a significant difference. The typical threshold for a significant difference is 0.05. If you're running 20 tests you're almost guaranteed to get one test that's significant just due to the laws of probability. That's the take home point here. You can't run too many tests, or else you're going to get something that shows up as significant due to just random chance.
What they claimed in the results was that taking a symbiotic may impact human social decision making, and they tested fairness. Um, but they said, however, the initial gut microbiome, the composition before the symbiotic, and their initial tyrosine levels also impact the results.
I don't understand the point of this experiment. Like, what were they trying to do? Like, they
The point
haven't.
is, they're trying to show that your gut microbiome and your diet can affect your behavior in potentially big ways, like even in your decision making and with social things. So the ultimatum game is supposed to kind of simulate the decisions we make in everyday life. Like, for example, oh, this person was rude to me earlier. Should I let it go? Because really, it costs me nothing to let it go. Or should I blow up on them and embarrass myself in front of and ruin my reputation in front of a whole class of students, right? That's kind of like an ultimatum game. So those little like split second decisions that we make all the time, that's what it's supposed to simulate. And they're trying to make the argument that the bacteria in your gut can actually affect the neurotransmitters in your brain that can then affect your decision making. This may be true. Dr. Char and I are not saying that this is definitely not true. We're only saying that the evidence in this paper is not sufficient to prove that.
Like not even close. Not even within the same galaxy. Like you can't that it's such an overreach. I can't like no, you put that was perfect. Okay, when Mr. Cream what he said is dead on. I'm not saying it can't be that. I'm saying this paper does not even come close to actually making the connection. And that's why I said, when I looked at your limitation slide, which is coming up, I said, oh, I can see why you like the paper. Because your limitation slide is written with exactly the same level of rigor in evidence as they used for making their claims. I think well, let's just say for this tyrosine, the tyrosine tryptophan thing is nonsense. Can you go back one? I have one question. Maybe Mr. Cream, you might know this. The FB ratio. Okay, I know what it is. I understand the ratio. Did they account for amount? Because they nix a whole bunch of people from the study, right? They had 117 participants originally. They ended up with 103. So they had to nix a bunch of them because they had things like, oh, they went on antibiotics, or
they went on antibiotics.
Yeah,
yeah. They had gastroenteritis.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you're on let me see if they can make if you can do the synthesis, freshman. What's the connect? Why would I need to get rid of people who took an antibiotic? Freshman.
Wouldn't it like affect the results? Because it's in.
Tell me why though. Come on, Quinn, it's easy.
They wouldn't be able to take the biotics.
No, they take them.
Mm.
Come on, you're close. You guys are close.
What do antibiotics do?
Oh my God, what do they do? Sophomores? Anybody?
Kill
Do antibiotics?
bacteria.
They kill
the
bacteria. Yeah, so your probiotics, which are bacteria, are going to die. Now, wouldn't that then also mean that
I will say, just to kind of drive this home, if you have a digestive disease like I do, ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, when you take antibiotics, the doctors monitor you or tell you to take probiotics because killing your good gut bacteria can be very bad if you have a digestive disorder. So that's why, you can't go on antibiotics in this study because it's going to basically nullify any effect of the probiotic.
But additionally, do they, and I'm asking a question, I actually don't know the answer to this. Do they ever address amounts of those bacteria? rather than just the ratio, right? Because I mean, you're nixing people for taking
No.
antibiotics with the presumption that they're going to have lower levels of probiotic of bacteria, good bacteria in their gut. And yet, as far as I saw, maybe I'm wrong, I didn't see any measurement of actual total bacteria in the stool sample. You took stool samples and you just measured ratios, right? Isn't that weird, Cadence?
So they make the claim that an FB ratio has something to do with gut health, right? So they say a
That's
higher
perfectly
FB
said.
ratio, a
You
higher
said,
FB ratio has something to do with a Western diet that's high in
yeah,
animal fat and
yeah, because of
protein.
the tyrosine, yeah, yeah, and that
So
that
yeah,
actually is that part is. Do you guys see like you were spot on today, Mr. Cream? You said they make the claim because man, they don't back it up at all. But
no,
so they say the claim is that it's an indicator of health, but as proof of that, it says that a higher FB is more like a Western diet,
yeah.
which is high in protein. What does that have to do with gut health? Nothing at all. Like, why does saying that somehow mean healthier gut? The leaps of logic that are taken in this paper are are mind-boggling. For something published by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. Like, yeah, Cadence.
So, like, do we know if any of these people, like, because, like, Mr. Kareem brought up, like, digestive issues. What if these people, like, that were randomly, like, sorted had the di digestive issues, like, or
They
they just
tested them
didn't know?
before.
Yeah, they
A great
tested them before.
question. Yes.
They did they tested them for a couple different things beforehand, and they also um where is it?
So they did exclude people with gastroenteritis, which is like
Yeah.
an acute digestive problem. So I think they would have excluded anybody who had like Crohn's disease or something like
Huh?
that if that was the case. Yeah.
And they said there were other things that came up in the study, like significant changes in diet that the participant just went off and changed their diet, which meant that it complicated things, so they removed them. But there was a pre-scan first just to see if it was to make sure that they weeded out anybody who had any of those like kind of more severe versions. So yeah. So what is there an answer to my question though? Like, did in anywhere in the paper do they talk about the amounts of those bacteria in the gut being measured? That seems like a massive oversight if they did. You took stool samples. Why wouldn't you go count? I don't understand that, you know?
We should
All
probably
right.
move on now.
Yeah, move on. Yeah, go.
Okay, we went over the first one. The second thing they claimed was tyrosine levels increase after taking the symbiotic supplement, which was
I
bas-
Mr. Cream, we could just make stuff up, write a paper, and send it to this journal, I guess.
I
Because
guess so.
what that is a claim with absolutely no evidence to back it up. That is insane.
The tyrosine levels increase. Well, I don't know. I don't remember if that actually
No,
had
I mean,
evidence in the
it did.
paper.
I mean, they supposedly show it did, though I don't know where, because
I'm gonna
if
try to
you,
find it. So it should be in the result. Can anybody find it? Any of you guys, students, in the results section, find the sentence that says that tyrosine levels increased after the symbiotic
I have it right here if you want
supplement?
me to.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
It's right under figure 2 in the paper. It says we
Okay.
found an overall trend that tyrosine plasma levels increased after the intake of symbiotic supplement.
There you go.
yeah,
Good.
but sure, I can say that. What was the test they ran?
So this would be in their methods section. So in the methods section, so I would say when I was in college, it was kind of the standard to put your method section after the introduction and before the results.
Yes,
But
it
there
is
was
still.
already, well, at that time, I remember that there was a trend kind of starting where people would
Yes.
put the method section at the end, especially in a
Yeah.
big journal like Nature or
Nature.
Science. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind. If you have a question about like how did they do this, go to the method section. In some journals, they put it at the end now. So in the method section, they should say how they measure the tyrosine in the blood. So it says the LNAs, which are the large nucleotide amino acids that were sampled in the study, were phenylalanine, leucine. Now notice, oh, sorry, I should shut up. But talking about p hacking, they actually measured many amino acids and they only reported tyrosine and tryptophan. But it actually says in the methods that they actually measured phenylalanine, leucine, threonine. I'm sorry if I mispronounce these. Threonine, tyrosine, tryptophan, isoleucine, valine, methionine, and histidine. If you look at all those amino acids, you're gonna find a difference. If you run enough statistical tests, you will find a difference. But
And
anyway, that's
also,
yeah.
um,
And, and can I point out one thing, because time's running out, that like something I learned from Amy Vollmer at Swarthmore was she's like when I'm reviewing a paper, if I see a typo, it kind of bothers me. If I see two typos, I reject the paper because you did not. This is going to be published for posterity. You should not be making typos, and shame on any editor who lets that go. Can I draw your attention to page 3, under figure 1? There is the paragraph on the left that starts with the effect was driven by changes, right? If you look at the middle, there's a bunch of statistics. Beta group equals 0.43, blah, blah, blah. See figure 1b. They are referring to a figure that does not exist. Figure 1b is not the figure they're talking about. And so I have no idea. I can't see what exactly they're making their claim based on because they actually did not put the figure that they're referring to in the paper.
right. Because the limitations Trevor was talking about. Iris, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah,
Yeah, Iris.
I think this is like Char's favorite slide at this point because
Yep.
so some of the limitations were that the study was only done on 101 healthy men.
Okay,
And I feel like
what is your argument about that? Why is that a limitation?
my argument is that it's a limitation because we don't know like how it works on everybody because it was only done on like men, like healthy men.
Yeah. And you
So
think it
we
should be
don't,
done on women?
Yeah,
well,
or
not
even
only on,
children. Like,
yeah.
No, can't be.
why not?
You actually can't do this on women. You can't do this study.
Why?
Okay, but you can't just do it on men and then
No,
assume
don't
that it works on
accept that,
everybody.
Iris. Don't just go,
Why?
okay. No, you should be like, why? Why
Well,
can't you do it on
I
women?
said that you can't just do it like on men and then assume it works on everybody just because it worked on them.
Why?
That's
But
right,
aren't
Iris. You cannot assume that it works on everybody. That's right.
aren't women just like smaller men?
No.
Because that's how a lot of scientists thought in the 19th and early 20th centuries. Like, oh, they're just like small men, little like diminutive men. So in the United States, I think I said this right before we started, but in the United States, this study would be kind of hard to get federal funding approval for. I've written these before for grants because you have to have a whole section about whether or not you're including females. And for this, I actually could make an argument that you can't include females. How long was the study?
7
weeks.
weeks.
Okay, and how long is a woman's cycle usually?
28 days.
Right, so that's 4 weeks. And so that's not even 2 cycles. So you're catching women at all over their cycle, and it's complicating those. If you're going to say that neurotransmitters are being, and especially amino acid derived neurotransmitters, that they're being altered in any way, that we have a mountain of evidence that females, ovarian and uterine and HPA axis cycling and circadian cycling will completely throw off the data. So it would actually make it would complicate the data so much as to make it completely meaningless. Not that this is meaningful anyway, but so I don't know if it would be helpful to start with by including women.
Cadence?
So if like it can't be done on women, then are women like not affected by this? Like if this was true,
No, no,
would it
no,
not
no.
affect women?
Good
Not
question.
measurable.
It's no, no, no. It is. It is. It's just way harder. If you have the extra complication of females, you now have to track a whole bunch of other factors that they haven't even been able to track the few factors in men that they were supposed to be tracking. Now we're going to add a whole bunch of other ones for females. It is
Huh.
certainly doable by a it's certainly a doable study by a really careful scientist, but
I would
it's not easy.
I would maybe push back against that though. I mean, if you do random assignment and you have a large enough sample size, shouldn't all those
Shouldn't
differences
wash
in
out.
hormone levels kind of wash out? If you see a difference, I think again, I think the problem with this study is they do too many analyses and they make it too
Hmm.
complicated. But if you just
Hmm.
kind of look at a simple pre versus post score and you have the treatment and versus a placebo group and you find a difference in the women, I think that is meaningful, even though, yes, there's going to be hormonal fluctuations over the 28 days.
Hmm.
But that's the beauty of random assignment, boys and girls, is that it can reduce the need to actually look at a lot of variables because they're like, oh, in theory, right? In theory, these two groups were the same on average before we started because we assigned people randomly to the two groups. Random assignment is a very powerful technique in research.
I have a pushback against that, but I don't want to do it in the main thing. So if anyone wants to stick around and hear my pushback on that afterwards, I'll stick around. But um, Iris, what's your second limitation?
That the dietary intervention only lasted 7 weeks. And I think the problem with this is that it was really short. Like we can't like assume that the behavior is gonna like last after like the supplement goes away.
I think
Like after the thing that they took, we can't assume that it will work because it only lasted for 7 weeks.
Yeah, but
I
why are
think
you?
that
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
No, go ahead, Dylan.
I don't think it's a problem. They're not saying it's something bad they did in their study. This I think 7 weeks was fine, but I'm just saying that maybe in a future study, like a long-term symbiotic testing if it can affect it, your decision making.
But can I get you guys to first see the value in actually showing it at all correctly? Like before going and changing the experiment and worrying about like little details like that, shouldn't you actually be able to back up your claims with real evidence first,
Yes.
right? Um, your third limitation?
My third one is that only one experiment was done to test decision making. And I think that's a limitation because it like the ultimatum game that they did that only like measured fairness and not like other social behaviors. So like
Yeah,
the other ones that where you go, Dylan.
I think saying it affects social decision making, that's a pretty big claim. If they said maybe it affects your view on fairness, that would make more sense, but I think
Okay,
they would have to do a lot more tests to really say that it affects
okay.
social decision making.
But that's your problem with it is the overreach on their conclusion, not that they only used one test.
I don't, I think for this one paper, that's fine. But
Okay, good.
like future, if they
Yeah.
want to
What,
really make that claim,
Mr. Cream, don't you think it's actually a benefit of the study that they only used one test so that it was
Yeah.
simplified?
Yeah, again, I think that the main issue with this paper is they ran too many tests. And when you run enough tests, like I've said, when you run
Yes.
enough tests, if you run 100 tests, 5%, five of them are going to be significant,
Yeah.
on average. So you run a bunch of tests, you're going to find some differences that are significant, probably, but that doesn't mean that they're real.
Mhm.
So you don't
Freshmen,
want to
you will
run too many
understand this.
tests.
Yeah, freshmen, you will understand this probably in 2 weeks a little better when we kind of go over this in class. All right, keep going. We're gonna finish up now.
All
Wrap
right,
up.
this is our last slide.
Yeah.
Okay, just a overview, conclusion. Probably changed now after this, but emphasizes gut health as they claim that uh sorry, I can't see it. Has an impact on social behavior and people's decision making. But- okay, and just like their overall conclusion, changes in microbiome affect decision making. Our new favorite word, altruistic punishment. We were talking about that earlier. That's what they said was to like punish someone for unfair behavior. And lastly, does this paper belong in PNAS Nexus? I'm not sure now. Probably not.
So PNAS is the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. It is a prestigious journal. It's not one of the sexy ones, but it is very high impact. This is their Mr. Cream. This is their like quick published journal that like all these journals now have these side journals that they just publish things quickly, right?
Oh no, that's not good.
No, it's not. But a 3.8. That's not a terrible impact factor. 3.8. It's not like Nature's 40. The Journal of Neuroscience is like 12. Nature Neuroscience is like 20. But this is 3.8. That's not terrible.
So at first I thought the paper was kind of good, but now I don't think that anymore.
Yeah,
So
I
I
think
guess
I was too focused on just like the results and just trusting them and believing everything they said was true. No, not really.
I did learn something. I learned that Iris hates men. And
that's not true.
All right. Well, we're going into overtime, so
Oh, sorry. That's our time. We should respect the students' time. We should let them go.
thanks, guys. I'll stick around if anybody wants to chat or if they want to hear my spiel about the women.
No.
Good. Oh, good job, guys. Yes, good job.
See you honor students tomorrow for the test.